who's an Australian physio, and it happened in the mid-90s, and he found that when they got someone to do this movement, the transverse abdominis fired first and stayed on throughout. So it's like, hang on, we've got something in this girdle that's happening prior to purposeful activation. We don't understand it. So the transverse abdominis was discovered by an Australian physio, or a team of physios called the Queensland Group. The transversus is a purely horizontal group of musculature which is the deepest layer of your abdominal wall. So superficial to transversus is internal oblique, which runs opposite to hand in your pocket, external oblique, which is hand in your pocket, and rectus abdominis, which is the vertical muscle that goes from the xiphoid process to the pubis. So the abdominal wall has 3 layers, okay? This deepest layer, there's nothing deeper than that other than the organ system. So everyone thought we'd solved stability. We'd found the transversus, okay? But all we'd found was the wall. Also with transversus, with the finding was multifidus, which is a spinal extensor, deep, okay? So we had really the walls of the building including onto the spine. And it was very, very exciting. I was at the VIS at the time when we were all reading the literature and incredibly excited. That was the beginning of drawing in. And it was a subtle drawing in to tether, like to fire the TA, the transversus, okay? Now, sounded again really good and you felt strong and you would do that and then you would do a movement and you'd work on that. Then Professor Collage, who 3 of us and you guys by extension, and Prague School historically, they actually found that the diaphragm was the hierarchical king of the deep system because it told the transversus what to do. And Jordan mentioned concentric activation diaphragm, eccentric control via the diaphragm travelling down on its own central tendon. So the diaphragm, there's a parachute and there's a tendon which goes to L2. So it's this dynamic that's going on here, which is really the breath stability, and I'll get to the lungs in a minute. But when the diaphragm goes down, the transversus must expand. So if I try and tense or suck, I'm working against my diaphragm. So it's a true cooperative eccentric TA, concentric diaphragm. Now where it gets a bit more difficult experientially is this idea. Now Jordan mentioned inhalation exhalation, so think of the parachute doing that. Now Collage did a study on, is the diaphragm lower when we breathe or is the diaphragm lower when we stabilize? And it was found that it's lower when we stabilize. What's attached to the surface of the diaphragm is the lungs. So when people say a deep breath, what they mean is my lungs are on more stretch. Because if the diaphragm's lower, then the surface area of my lungs is being pulled down. Can you see that? Now there's supposedly receptors in the lower third of the lungs which have to do with relaxation, autonomic nervous system. Whether they're there or not, it's a good thing. You're getting more of the picture? So diaphragm, lungs, also the diaphragm and the heart, because the rhythm of the heart's linked to all of this, all of the organ system below. Now I said we'd found the walls with the TA and the multifidus. Now we've found the roof, and the roof is in charge. The roof is the diaphragm. What's the floor? Pelvic floor. So now we have to complete. So when we say cylinder, can you see it now? Roof, floor, walls. When we pressurize the cylinder, we maintain stabilizing function and can breathe. Takes time. Yeah. But it's a sophisticated integral package. Okay. Also get trunk pelvis connection. Get my hips are free, my shoulders are free because they're not trying to give me stabilizing information.